All of the things that you think in your head in the nighttime when you're laying there trying to fall asleep, those marketers are going to try to prey on. It is the most wonderful time of year. I am recording this during the holidays. And if you're anything like me, you are thinking a lot about toys and what to get your kids for Christmas and what to tell other people to get your kids for Christmas. My family sticks to kind of a want, need, wear, read situation when it comes to gifts from us, but we also have a gift that comes from Santa, and we have lists that we hand out to loved ones who are wanting to know what our kids would like for Christmas. So, thinking a lot about toys this season, and also getting a lot of advertisements for toys. And we're going to talk a little bit about the advertisements in a little bit. But today, what we're going to do is talk about toys that you can give your kid that are math focused, but not explicitly meant for math. That means we're not giving your kid a learning toy per se, and they're not necessarily going to know that they're doing math learning, but they will be. And these are some of the things that I have in my home for my kids or have noticed that my students really love. And that helps them to build their math knowledge and math background for the math classroom while also just being super fun and long lasting. Now, let's talk about toy advertisements. I see all kinds of toy advertisements as a parent. That is what the internet serves me. That is what I get in catalogs. And um, there's a specific subset of toys that get marketed to me as learning toys. And there's nothing wrong with learning toys. I don't want you to think that I am coming after learning toys. But sometimes these toys advertisements can prey on your fears. So you will see things like kids with this toy are ready for kindergarten faster, or use this toy to help your child master their multiplication facts. Get this toy to help your child be a better reader. And I'm not claiming that those things aren't true because I have no basis for knowing, but a toy meant for learning is basically a one size or like a one use thing. If you get a toy that is just focused on multiplication facts, that is all that toy is going to do. There's no open endedness to that toy. And it's also going to be very explicit to your child. This is for multiplication learning. Whereas an open ended toy can be used for a lot of different things and build a lot of different skills. So, I guess what my point is be warned that sometimes those advertisements are trying to prey on your fears. The fear that your child might be falling behind, the fear that your child might not be learning enough, that you might not be doing enough for your child. All of the things that you think in your head in the nighttime when you're laying there trying to fall asleep, those marketers are going to try to prey on. And so just kind of be aware that some learning focused toys are not going to be the solution to your problem, but the marketing is going to try to make it seem that way. Okay, now let's get into our three categories of math focused toys that you could get your child for Christmas. They're going to love and they're going to play with all year round. It's not going to get tossed next Christmas when you're trying to make room for the new toys. Okay? Category one is going to be building toys. So these are going to be things that help your child with spatial awareness, but also have applications far past that. Remember, we're thinking about open ended toys here. So, building toys. My all time favorite would be Lego because Lego is so awesome, versatile. Kids love it. I love it. It's a fun thing to do together. Also in this category would be Duplo. So Duplo is the like bigger bricks, building bricks that are for smaller kids. And then Lego is the smaller bricks for bigger kids. My kids are 5.5 and they just kind of did that transition from Duplo to Lego, and we're actually taking the Duplo to their school because it's used a lot at their school. These two building toys are really fun because not only are they open-ended, kids can build whatever they want, but they help with spatial awareness. So anytime kids are building, they're thinking about things like the shapes that they're using. They're thinking about volume. How many bricks am I going to need to fill this thing up or build this thing? They're thinking about surface area. They're thinking about engineering concepts. And they're just kind of building a base knowledge of all of that spatial awareness stuff, all the geometry stuff, number stuff, that they can use when it comes to math class. Also, things like Lego sets, where we are building something specific, they are practicing their executive functioning skills. So they are looking at the instructions that come with that set, and they're doing step 1 through step whatever 20, and building that item and having to follow the instructions in order and keep those instructions in their head, and search through the Lego to build that object. So that's going to build up, our ability to follow directions, our ability to look at directions and follow them, and frustration tolerance, because sometimes those instructions are difficult. So all of that makes Lego like one of the ultimate math toys, in my opinion. Next thing up in the building category is magnetiles. So magnetiles are these magnetic blocks that we can stick together and build with. These are just two of the squares, but they come in different shapes. So there is some isosceles triangles, like the long pointy triangles. There's equilateral triangles. There are big rectangles. There's longer rectangles. And these are great, again, for that spatial awareness and for that building up of some geometry skills. So recognizing the shapes, putting them together, seeing what other shapes they make. If you put all the wedges together, that can make a hexagon, and like thinking about those types of things, as well as building up things like surface area and engineering skills. My kids were building with them the other day and trying to put a roof on a house that they were making, and they had to think about like load bearing walls because they couldn't just put the roof on that big house because it kept caving in. These can also be used for actual math manipulatives when we do things like think about fractions or think about, repeating quantities. You could actually write on these with dry erase marker if you want. But again, these don't have to be used as math manipulatives to build math learning and math background knowledge. That is going to happen automatically when your child is playing with these. So Vegetiles are just one of the most phenomenal gifts. My kids started getting them when they were like 2, and they've built their collection over time, and they will continue to use these for as long as they play. So it's a good investment and great math learning. Number 3 on our building category, and this could be either building or art, is pattern blocks. So kids can use pattern blocks. They look kind of like this to build creations, art. They also can come with puzzles. So tangram puzzles are one certain type of puzzle that can come with those pattern blocks, where you use a certain set of pattern blocks to try to copy an image. But pattern blocks are, again, going to build that spatial awareness, relationships, and geometry skills, while also thinking about things like patterns and symmetry, things that you start to think about when you are doing art and math together. So talking about those STEAM, so like technology, art, engineering, math, all put together. Pattern blocks are great for that. They're also great for if you're learning about fractions, thinking about parts of a whole. But again, they do not need to be used as math manipulatives for your child to get those math skills from this toy. So if you have a kid who's like super into art, super into creating things, they would probably really love getting a set of pattern blocks for Christmas. Category number 2 is going to be gadgets. And I use gadgets loosely, but these don't fit into the building category, but are amazing learning tools. And again, your child is going to love playing with them and not really know that they're learning some math. So the first gadget is going to be a tape measure. So my kids love to play with the tape measures we just like have around our house. We have a bajillion of them for some reason. I don't really know why. And they just love to measure stuff. And it's great for that number recognition. So my kids right now aren't at the level of math learning where they understand measurement per se. They are starting to measure some things, but more so, they're looking at the numbers on the tape measure and recognizing those numbers and practicing saying them out loud. But for older kids, actual measurements and comparing measurements, if that ruler has like maybe inches on one side and centimeters on the other. So exploring the world around them and measuring it with a tape measure. They make these like big tape measures where it's like kind of a little bit bigger, less sharp on the edges, like the traditional measuring tapes. I don't know about you, but I remember as a kid like whipping that tape measure back and giving myself a little cut with it because they're so sharp. So a tape measure could be a really fun gift that fits in a stocking that your kid would actually really like using and incorporate some math into their everyday. The second thing is also a measurement tool, which would be a stopwatch. Kids love timing themselves. Ask me to time them doing all kinds of stuff. And so getting a timer or a stopwatch could be a great math focused gift that kids would really like to play with. I mean, they can time themselves doing basically anything, like 10 jumping jacks or running around the house or racing their sibling. So this obviously introduces concepts of time, seconds, minutes, milliseconds, if your timer does that, and is small enough to put in a stocking. So a timer, especially one that's like a kid focused one that's easy for them to use, would be a really great gift. Number 3 in this gadgets category is a cash register. So this is probably for younger kids, but I don't know. Your older child might also like to have a cash register, but a cash register that they can play with that actually adds up the numbers and like the set makes the sounds. You can press buttons, and then you are practicing that number recognition, thinking about money, and just is super fun because it helps imaginative play. Kids are always wanting to buy stuff, so getting them a cash register so they can pretend is just another way to kind of give them lots of that good, rich background knowledge that they're going to need to use in math class. Kids who struggle with thinking about money are going to struggle with things like decimals, going to struggle with things like adding and subtracting when they're thinking about concepts that have to do with money. So like word problems that have to do with money, manipulating money, because like most math standards here in the US deal with some type of counting dollars or like bills and coins. So giving them a cash register that has some play money in it, really good present. And also in the gadgets category that kind of piggybacks off of the stopwatch would be an actual watch. Just like a character one or something that they can see the hands of the watch, or it has a digital readout so that they can start to conceptualize time. Also, kids just love watches because it's something like it's an accessory. They can look at it and see what time it is. My kids have been asking for watches forever. I think this year we might get them some. A watch is another great thing, small thing that could fit in stocking that is focus. Okay, final category, and this is going to be games. I don't know about you, but I love games, and I love getting my kids games at Christmas because it's another thing that we can do as a family. It's something that I enjoy doing with them, and a lot of times there are math and language benefits to playing games. Also, a thing that I like to think about when I am getting games is it also is a great opportunity for my kids to practice their frustration tolerance. Because if they're not winning or things are not going the way that they had hoped, they are having to practice that frustration tolerance, flex that muscle of continuing to try, even though things are not going the way that they had hoped. And that is something that we use in math class all the time. All right. The first game is one that I'm actually getting one of my kids for Christmas, which is Mancala. I don't know if you remember playing this game as when you were a kid. It is just a classic, and it helps kids with things like logic, with counting, with planning, and those are all great things for math. And again, they're not going to really know that they're doing math besides maybe the counting. And it's just a really fun game that adults and kids enjoy playing, that your kid might like playing with you and might also actually pick up some math skills along the way. Number two is dominoes. Dominoes are a versatile gift because there are lots of different dominoes games that you can play, and you can like look up all the rules for all of those different ones. But for kids as young as 3 or 4, there's just matching the dots. The dots are great practice with subitizing. Subitizing is being able to look at a number of objects and automatically see how many there are without actually having to count. So you will see like, the 5 dots there, and a kid who's good at subitizing will just look at it and know that there are 5 without having to count all the dots. So matching up those dots, subitizing, and then for older kids as they play more complex dominoes games, the planning, the logic, and the frustration tolerance are all good math skills that they're going to need. And the more they can build those up in different ways, the better. What I wanted to highlight in this video is another classic. So it's like, oops, all classics. Battleship, because it's fun, and we're getting practice with kind of that coordinate grid type situation of having to find a point on a grid and plan out and use logic to try to find the other person's ships. So Battleship, Chef's Kiss, great game. It's not for younger kids, it's more for older kids, and that's when they would be learning about the coordinate grid anyway. So Battleship would be a really great, fun, classic game to get your kid to foster some math skills, but mostly to just have fun with. I hope that this gave you some good ideas for things that you could put on your kid's Christmas list or get for your kid for Christmas or put in their stocking, or other holiday celebrations. I also will put a link to my most recent email newsletter in the description, because I have this list plus more with links, and I do not do affiliate links, so these are all just to help you find the thing, and also some recommendations. So if you like to get your kids books like I do, for want, need, where, read, there are a few math book recommendations, that are just stories that also incorporate math. And if you have one of these toys that we talked about already, I would love to hear about your review of them in the comments. Like, how long did your kid use them for? Are they still playing with them? What do you like to do with them? Or any other recommendations that I did not mention here. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure that you check out my other math videos, both for parents and for kids.